This is part one of a three-part series. Oh, okay, this is only part one. Why play and own is the way. I kind of read this and was like, oh my god, this is three parts. This is going to be a long video if I don't break it down. We've been live for 6 months, and for each week in that time, we release new items for the players to buy in Million on Mars. This weekly cadence of drops is unheard of in blockchain gaming, but we think it is the minimum live operation required to operate an MMO. Most Web3 projects employ the Kickstarter-esque one-time, highly hyped, highly scarcity model. They collect a lot of player cash up front, and then they use that cash to deliver on the promised roadmap at a later date. Or in a way too many cases, do not deliver. We feel strongly that it is much better to launch a live game and treat it as an ongoing service, to respond to the players' feedback and desires via content cadence and new features, and measure yourself on the KPI of recurring revenue. I actually like that a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me, and it is bucking the trend of what normally happens in this blockchain Web3 gaming hype. Most games today are just absolutely releasing NFTs with no real roadmap of how they're going to complete it, raising a bunch of cash, and then taking forever or not delivering at all. Shout out to those that have actually delivered a game and kept with it. Million on Mars is a rich player-driven economy expressed through scores of crafting chains, and an in-game marketplace, a work order system, and building rentals via the habitat and settlement system, all which facilitate player-to-player trade. Today we're kicking off a shift to our players creating mining rigs and solar panels, our most consistently valuable weekly drops, using minting tokens. In effect, we're putting ourselves out of business of doing the weekly sales of blueprints. Why the heck would we do that? To answer that question, I need to unpack what is play and own and a true player-driven economy. Let's start with ownership. Currently, our players have three primary forms: land, Dusk, and NFTs. Players own land. With Million on Mars, they play to acquire and purchase 250 meter on a side hexagons of land that work out conveniently to 40 acres on Mars. These land plots were lovingly processed from the Mars Reconnaissance Observer spacecraft, and the data is processed by the high-rise team, JPL, at the University of Arizona. I think it's just good to note that these are real data points on Mars that have been processed by the University of Arizona. They are stereotypically processed to deliver 1 meter of height resolution, so our players have the most authentic possible experience of owning their homestead on the high frontier. The ownership of land is an organic expression of ownership. Furthermore, the ownership of land on Mars enjoys the fantasy romance of Mars with the practical benefit of being a real place. Players own Dusk. The in-game or virtual currency that's our dominant medium of exchange is called Dusk. Dusk is used between players to buy and sell crafted goods and raw resources within the game marketplace, to hire each other to perform skilled work orders, and to pay for fees in the game such as upgrade, transport, or dismantling of buildings. Our white paper covers the plumbing details of Dusk in depth, but in general we have fees or taxes on flows of Dusk on the order of 5% of the flow, and of that 5% we discard or burn 80%. The other 20% of those fees are credited to the treasury. This treasury in turn is a source of new to the player Dusk from various gameplay systems. The burnt Dusk is critically important deflationary lever to offset the inflationary sources of Dusk. Players own their Dusk both in-game like traditional MMO, or at the option they may withdraw their Dusk to the blockchain subject to a 10% withdrawal fee, 14 days cooldown, and land ownership. Once withdrawal to the blockchain, the player may sell that Dusk to another player via decentralized exchange such as Alcor on the Wax chain, Radium on the Solana chain, soon TM, and may choose to add their Dust to a liquidity pool to earn passive income while holding their Dust token. Player-owned NFTs. We have scores of NFTs that run from solar panels, smelters, mining rigs, to resources, tools, ultra-rare ones for the artifacts. We release chapters and illustrations from a novel that the CEO, Carrie Waters, is publishing serially, bringing forward a positive vision for the future of our players, and even a soundtrack from Mount Gilmore. Frankly, we release new NFTs each week as we deliver on a roadmap of features and content cadence. The amount of economic activity between the players is astonishing. It's still early days, we're growing rapidly, but the annualized per capita economic activity of our players is about $2,000 each, of which about 2/3 of that activity is still conducted in the perfectly vanilla in-game virtual economy. Holy fuck, that's good to know. You get into this game so cheap. If you're doing $2,000 of activity, you get into this game for like $5-10, you can get into the game. How to drive stability. How do we keep Dust stable? How have we been able to keep our players happy to participate in our weekly drops that constantly sell out? How do NFT assets generally rise in value over 6 months of time, a very long time in the space? The answer to these three questions is really the same answer. Consistent development, more utility for the players across everything they own. More utility is the dry term for making the game more fun. Okay, that sounds straightforward. As a game developer, you should always be making the game more fun, right? Everyone does this. Well, no, actually. Very few teams actually keep making a live game more fun, or at least fun in a manner that is directly measurable by the player. How can I say that so easily? Well, those words seem arrogant to me. Well, to explain that, we would need to do a measure of fun. What is a unit of fun? This has been debated in game industry for the last couple of decades. Is it engagement? Is it fun? Is fun some sort of indescribable art form? Is fun just something you know when you see it? I do believe what we do is a proper art, but I also believe in measuring anything to reserve your intuition for the truly creative challenges. Sure, I appreciate retention and engagement metrics, but there are many applications we must use due to their utility for non-fun activities that are so compelling. The bank app, the map app, the work chat app, email. So I find retention and engagement very useful, but do not fully capture fun in my experience. So measuring fun has to be reflected in something you use a lot, but what else? I acknowledge it sounds unromantic, but in my experience, revenue from players, not from ads or other sources other than the player, is the best metric for fun. When players give you their money in this world crowded with entertainment options, many of them free and excellent, that money is the most crisp form of KPI for fun that I believe exists. Hot damn, Eric! Praise Jeebus! Ah! That's exactly what it is. Please, show me how much fucking money you're making. If people are spending money in your game, they're having fun with entertainment. I agree. That money is the most crisp form. Crisp, even said crisp. Wow, chef's kiss. And what is an even better form of KPI for fun than the revenue we might make once a week or on our weekly sales? The 24/7 charts of our Dusk token and our NFTs on the secondary market. Why? Because that is the real-time measure of what players are paying each other to have a bit of fun, and the pricing of that fun is a constant dashboard of how we're performing as a game, product, and service. Our Dusk token shrugged off the recent crypto panic. Dusk, being our high-frequency utility token, enjoys the status of being the most stable cryptocurrency on the Wax ecosystem, and for that matter, the most stable coin we are aware of in the greater Web3 game space. Again, how do we keep it stable? We have a damn good game. This is the starting ingredient, and that's not to be taken for granted in the Web3 space today. But being a damn good game will be table stakes before the year is out. Second, we have built in tons of sinks and utility for the token. Unlike a Web2 traditional MMO, the players actually welcome fees in the auction house or marketplace. They welcome maintenance fees, upgrade fees, transport fees, withdrawal fees. Heck, we put a fee on just about every player-to-player and player-to-game economy flow. Web3 players understand and welcome these fees, as these fees are critically deflationary or burn mechanics to offset the inflationary source of new dust created in the system through normal gameplay. Holy fuck, all the sinks! Why couldn't we get those sinks everywhere else? Why did it take Million on Mars and Carrie and Eric and Mitch to come in here and do this correctly? Holy fuck! God, this is refreshing to read. This is what creates the game in the economic domain. Always sinking Dusk, and we apply that well to our NFT collections and sink and burn our NFTs. We've minted over 500,000 NFTs to date, and over 65% have been burnt for utility in-game. This is an excellent record in current Web3 game metrics, but we still have at least another 100,000 or more NFTs that we are keen to get burnt in exchange for utility. An example, an early innovation we developed is that a building blueprint is burnt upon install on the land, which this directly offsets the supply of buildings in the secondary market. With this, we are giving the player utility, again for the dour word for fun, for burning their NFTs and driving up the scarcity and value of the digital assets of NFTs. All this sounds straightforward as I type this, but again, 97% plus of the projects out there do not actually do this. Most of them are trying desperately to deliver on a fraction of their promised roadmap of features, let alone follow through on the live ops of the content cadence. My God. Land, the Genesis NFT, going back to the day of Second Life, Ultima Online, and my own Go Pets, selling virtual land has long and rich history worthy of its own article, but here I'll focus on keeping a close eye on the scarcity of our land. Like the sage philosopher Goldilocks, we want our land to neither be too rich, not too poor. To maintain values, we have the three main tools. That fucking threw me off, and I love that, Eric. Our sage philosopher Goldilocks, if you have not read Goldilocks and the Three Bears, high quality historical novel that everybody should read. The fundamental rate in which we release the land deeds and digital terrain maps, the rate in which we release the new and fun buildings that need space, the space available on the land themselves. With these three levers, we can keep bringing new players in the game with accessible access to land. There's even a path to land via pure gameplay, as well as preserve the scarcity of our most valued lands and land deeds in the secondary market. An example of our rare land deed rising in value over time. While at the same time, we rolled out pathways to players earning ownership of common Gen 2 land deeds through gameplay. These three forms of ownership in play and own are already strong inside Million on Mars. We have proven excellent content cadence and delivery on our roadmap and stability of our medium of exchange token, Dusk. But a core value for us is to relentlessly drive more and more of the economic activity into the player's hands. This has been a long road trip, but we get back to answering the question of why we're intentionally putting ourselves out of the business of selling blueprints in our weekly drops. Instead, we're now shifting that opportunity to the players. Starting today, players will be able to craft mining rigs, solar panels, CADs with minting tokens. We will be continue unlocking new crafting chains for the player to create the rest of our catalog of buildings. This is what it means to be a player-driven economy. Constantly searching for more methods, systems, and content, and moving the value creation to the players themselves. Moving the minting of blueprint NFTs to the players has several strong benefits. It's more fun and engaging and fulfills the lore of the world to craft the buildings out of the insight resources. It allows players to have much finer grained controls on the supply, demand, and pricing of the buildings. As we go multi-chain with Solana this month, it also allows the players to decide where to feature their NFTs rather than us being paternalistic. I like that. I have a feeling there won't be many NFTs minted on Wax after this. Frees up the team to spend more time building additional crafting chains and experiences, and shifts that supply, demand, pricing, and chain discovery to the player-driven market. Further delivers on the promise that as play and own game, the players really own the economy. One thing to interest here, and I know this is an experiment for all of this, is I wonder how players are going to now min-max these, if there will be margins, if all of the margins will be squeezed out by players naturally, and how this natural economy will work. It's very interesting to see this and exciting to see. The exact crafting gameplay loop for players minting NFT leverages all the current game systems, where players have land, install buildings, harvest resources, craft intermediate parts, and then blend with minting tokens. And as the final step, our treasury system calculates the rarity output, so the player actually crafts the legendary and mythics for the win. Let's go! This is the foundation of our learning with Play and Own, and in the next article I'm going to detail why we believe that Web3 really does enable a player to have more fun and engage over Web2. This is very interesting. I want to craft rare and mythic lands and rare and mythic items and buildings. And I think you're going to need to build a lot of experience at Million on Mars to do that. And if they can build a fun great game that attracts players that want to come play and buy buildings and play the game, I think it's very interesting. I much like the way that they're going about it, much over, we just made a video about Star Atlas and how much they suck. And today they're selling a ship for $30,000 for a ship. And they have no economy around it. Their tokens are quickly going to zero. Every day is red and a bloodbath. I like the way that Million on Mars is going here, building from the bottom up. They're not building you a spaceship and not telling you how a spaceship gets built in the first place. They're literally starting from mining ice and dirt off the ground and using your feces to grow food and make water and oxygen, and to grow from there and build all the way up to things. They're starting bottom up with the game tree, which I think is very important. So if you like this video, comment down below. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you.